College football just started, and there is one team in all of the land that is 1-0, and it is your Iowa State Cyclones. We're talking about the game that got them to 1-0 today on Locked On Cyclones.
You are Locked On Cyclones, your daily podcast on the Iowa State Cyclones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Cyclones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Shout out to you for being here every single day, making this your first watch or listen of the day. I appreciate it more than you know. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcasting platform, be sure to hit subscribe so we can prove once and for all that it is, in fact, a Cyclone state. Side note, we're almost at 1,000 on YouTube. If you traditionally listen on podcast, go ahead and check it out over there. All right, let's talk about Iowa State, Kansas State. Coming away with the win, 24-21 over in Dublin. There is so much to unpack in this game, and I can't wait to really talk about it until we're playing again next Saturday. We'll do some preview, obviously. But for the most part, this was a monumental win for Iowa State, coming away with the win in Dublin overseas. We'll do an initial unpacking of this game today. All right, I'm not going back and watching tape before this. I'm not really diving in to the box score. I do have it up, and I obviously watched it, so I kind of know a little bit about this, but I'm not really getting into advanced analytics and all of that. We're going to keep pretty surface level, just initial takeaways from this game. I do have on here, initial strengths and weaknesses, offense or defense. I think the wide receiver position, the linebacker position, the safety position, all areas that we'll probably break down in today's episode. So don't go anywhere. Be sure to hit subscribe. Before we get that far, though, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now. This game was electric. So much fun. Started off extremely slow, I will say that. But I do think that for this being the international showcase of the Big 12, of Iowa State, of Kansas State, this was a success. This was so much fun. And is it partially because I've been missing football for so long now? Maybe. I'm not going to lie to you. Okay. I have seriously missed everything about college football. Oh, this is a big third down here. Ooh, I would have ran it. I think I would have ran it there. What do you do in this situation? Do you go for it on fourth down or do you kick it? Those were real questions that came up in this game. My personal thoughts, those were just off the top of my head. Why were they off the top of my head? Because I was just thinking them not that long ago, watching Iowa State come away with the victory. Now, to answer the first question on here, initial strengths and weaknesses, okay? Just to go off the rough draft that I have here. The first thing, the strengths, running the ball, Carson Hansen could be the answer for Iowa State this season. That was electric. What really happened in that fourth quarter, there was some interesting strategy with him not really playing at all, or I don't even know if he did in the second or third, and then kind of coming back and being really, really fresh in the fourth. That was awesome. I do think that Rocco, it's there. It's there. We just need to. There was also some that it wasn't there, and maybe that was the throw I'm thinking of specifically, was directly to a Kansas State player. So maybe there's an accuracy, but I would be more inclined to think that was a receiver miscommunication. That's just my opinion. I'm not entirely sure. But Rocco's got it. Two absolute dimes. And back-to-back on the second touchdown, right before Brett, I believe it was Bramer that came away with that one-handed catch. Oh, if you would have caught that, I did lose my mind, actually, and it didn't even really matter. And then the next play was a shot to the left sideline. So not only the right, but the left, and Brett Eskilson comes down with that one. Another strength, Brett Eskilson. That guy, I think, is probably, just based off of this one game, which I know it's early, but that guy is probably the answer, the step in for Higgins and Knoll. We've talked so much all offseason. And that's a name that we have talked about a lot. And I've also talked about the tight ends. And Benjamin Bramer showed up, had a 21-yard reception. And based on this box score at 2 receptions for 41 yards, that means his other reception was 20 yards. Benjamin Bramer showed up big time. Gabe Burkle having the third best reception day at 3 for 31. The tight ends did show up. But Brett Eskilson was absolutely electric today. And I think that he could be the answer at wide receiver. positives out the wazoo. This team, like, we just beat Kansas State, and I know I'm bouncing around a little bit here, but I'm excited. This team shows a lot of promise, and this Kansas State team is no joke. Like, I do think the Kansas State is a very good squad this year, and you beat them, especially in an environment where there's just a lot going on. I feel very good about that win, and we'll get more into this win specifically in just a little bit. Some of the positives on defense, I thought that the linebackers absolutely flew around. The defensive line, we will talk about in a second. The secondary, pretty good overall. Not too bad overall, I will say. Now, weaknesses. I will say there probably were more weaknesses on the defensive side of the ball, but it's not that bad. Kansas State scored 21, and 2 of them were like 50-plus yard touchdowns. So there is that, and if you take away essentially 100 yards from Avery Johnson, his stat line is like roughly 160 and 0 touchdowns. Now, no interceptions either. So we got to keep that kind of in mind here. A lot of it came on 2 plays, but for the most part, like, solid showing from the secondary. Just maybe got to clean it up a little bit there. Linebacker, I thought was actually pretty good. Flew around quite a bit there. Defensive line, I just wish we would have gotten a little more pressure, and I know part of that comes down to game plan. Only sent 3 a lot of this game. And when we did send more, 4 or 5, it didn't really seem like it made a whole lot of sense. Not trying to be negative here, but that was just my initial impression. I do wonder what's going to happen. And now it's obviously different with Kansas State. Like, they're a different animal with Avery Johnson and everything, but it's not like this was the hardest team we're going to face all year. So we kind of had to figure that out. Offensively, the weaknesses that I saw. Play calling stood out to me. Overall, relatively good game. Like, really a pretty solid game plan. And I thought we played into what we did well, pretty well, honestly, for the most part. But there were some moments. For one, why are we pitching it to Abu Sama on the goal line? What was the thought process there? I would really like to know, because it was pouring rain. I just, like, that is all I'm baffled. I don't even know what else to say. Back when I was in YSF Pop Warner, we did not run pitch very often. We ran stretch almost all the time. And I bring that up because I don't know what gap Sama was going into. Was it B, C? Was he stretching it outside? If he's stretching it completely out to the boundary, I can see the argument, like, well, we want to pitch it out there, get it out there as fast as we can. When we were in YSF Pop Warner, we barely ever pitched it because you don't know where the ball's going to go from a 5th or a 6th grade quarterback in small town Iowa. Like, it's not like we're like the top program in Texas here. We were some kids that like playing football, and half of those pitches went in the dirt over his head or behind him. So, like, we didn't really pitch it very much. We taught the quarterback, you take the snap and you sprint to that handoff point. You just put your head down and you run with that ball and then stick it in his chest. That's how it works. It was a little intense. I remember it like it was yesterday. I don't know why we were pitching that ball. And that's like, it's one play call, probably just an oversight, probably an assumption of, well, the rain's not going to be that big of a deal. This is the best play call in this situation. I get it. But we got to hit that. Like, how do we not come away with points there? I don't know. Obviously, I do know because I watched it, but that's got to be it's got to be cleaned up. That has to be. The other one was the drive in the 4th where we came away with the field goal. I really felt like we could have come away with a touchdown there pretty easily. It's just that late in the drive, we somehow got away from running the ball. We were averaging, I don't know what the number was, but I would say probably at least 4 yards a carry flying down the field. We were cooking. I mean, we were moving that ball, and then all of a sudden get into Kansas State territory, and we're like, yeah, actually, let's try throwing it. Let's just sling the rock around a little bit. Didn't work out. We ended up with a field goal. We got those points mattered. Like, they were the reason that Iowa State won this game, the only field goal in this game. And it was a big one, but I just think, I think we could have probably gotten a touchdown there as well. So realistically, if you convert that to a touchdown and then you convert the one that never was at the very end from Sama, or nice, not Sama, Hansen, right? So then that pushes it to let's say 20, what would that be? 28 plus another, so 35. Is that what that is? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right. Yeah. 5 touchdowns, 35 points. And I think you could maybe argue that Kansas State got a little bit lucky. Let's take away 7 of their points. Iowa State kind of won this game 35-14. Like they did. So I'm pointing out these weaknesses, but don't get caught up in it. Iowa State played a phenomenal game. Like they really, really did. And we're going to talk a little bit about some specific player performances here in just a second. But this, I mean, don't feel bad about this at all. We didn't squeak by Kansas State. We were in control a lot of this game. I think that says a lot about Iowa State football. And I think that the future is very, very bright. But we'll talk more about that coming up here right after this. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for the bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ after week 1 or before week 1, even kicks off, this is your moment. MVP. Could it be Brock Purdy? Could it be Hunter Dekkers? Could it be Josh Allen? We will find out. And I think right now, if I had to pick, I'd probably lean Iowa State, just knowing the history that comes from Ames. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. So this game was electric. Start to finish, not so much. But it finished awesome. Like I actually said start to finish. I was like, no, it wasn't that electric in the beginning. Just comparatively. The fact that football was back, I was beyond thrilled. But there was definitely a part of this game that was worse than the other. So let's not get too crazy. You're here Locked On Cyclones, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Talking about specific players here, we're not going to get too crazy. Rocco extended his streak of games with a passing touchdown. He had 2. I thought he played really well. He only threw 50%. He threw 183 yards. 2 touchdowns. Like that stat line isn't going to shock a lot of people, but it was so rainy at the beginning, and we're still learning what these wide receivers are kind of about here at Iowa State. So like who's out there, who's doing what. I'm not concerned about Rocco's stat line at all. Actually, I thought he played really, really well. There were a couple of huge plays, and I mean huge plays in the backfield where he stepped up and either got a few yards or just like mitigated the sack. Like he really made some enormous plays. Obviously big throws, obviously the fourth down too. Like after the game, he was talking about, he was given 2 plays and he called basically the one that essentially won the game for Iowa State. Hansen getting down in bounds, was the kind of the other portion of that, but him calling that play, like Rocco, if I had to give a game ball, I'd probably give it to Rocco, even with a 50% completion attempt percentage. Like, he played really, really well. So I wanted to start there. Rushing attack, Carson Hansen, 16 carries for 71 yards. Abusama, 14 rushes for 43 yards. And Rocco had 18 as well on the ground. That Hansen balled out. And I don't know what the strategy was with putting him, kind of on the sideline more in the second or third, coming out fresh in the fourth. If that was on purpose, if it wasn't, it worked out really well. That seemed to be a really strong play. And also the line wearing down Kansas State and really getting good push in the third, fourth quarter. I saw that was awesome. I really liked, to answer this rushing question more, obviously Sama and Hansen were both electric in this game, but I really liked the fact that Iowa State eventually got to the point where we were kind of like, we can run it well enough to just kind of run it. We'll pass when we really have to. We didn't really need to get too crazy in this one. We're still obviously figuring out the wide receiver position, which I'll talk about next. But the lean towards like, let's just give Hansen the ball. Let's just give Sama the ball. And if we don't score this drive, it's okay. Like, we will be all right. I thought that was a really smart play. I really actually like that. Receivers, Brett Eskelson, dude, absolute dude. Has 3 for 46 in this game with a touchdown, and something happened after his touchdown, so he wasn't on the field as much. That guy could be the answer to the Higgins and Knoll question, right? We talked so much about the tight ends, and Bramer and Burkle showed up in this one. So I'm not saying that they weren't there, but I think the answer at the wide receiver position is Eskilsson. We obviously haven't talked about Sowell or Townsend, guys that did not get a catch in this one. Look, just because you transfer in doesn't mean that you're obviously like number one. I think a lot of fans were definitely enamored by the bright, shiny object, but like we have heard consistently about Eskilsson in camp, like early. And that's why I pointed it out. Like, really, okay, Eskilsson, a guy to look out for. All right. And then later on in spring, look out for Brett Eskilsson. Social media post, Rocco Becht, Brett Eskilsson. Then fall camp, he's been consistently everywhere. Look out for this guy. Like, he actually could be the real deal. The tight ends, Bramer and Burkle really showed up. 2 for 41 for Bramer, 3 for 31 for Burkle. And obviously, I think they probably more so showed up with the blocking in the run game, but they really showed up in the pass game as well. Over the middle, I thought they made a huge difference. Dominique Overby with the other touchdown. First off, that series of touchdowns was electric. Like, bro, I don't even think electric is a strong enough word. That was so awesome. I was freaking out for that one-handed catch. Was that Bramer? I think it was Bramer. One-handed, foot was in. I was like, dude, he literally caught that. He caught that. Somebody, like, go back. Well, we have to make sure he caught that. And then the next play was not down the right sideline, down the left sideline. Rocco just slings it into a bucket. So that's what I was talking about with Rocco. Like, he's got the capability. I'm not too worried about Rocco. I think we're going to see a major year from Rocco. But man, Overby with the first touchdown, that was awesome too. Hansen had 2 receptions, kept the game alive, really won the game for him there at the end of the game. And Eli Green had 2 for 17. The fumbles here, and I think the best thing to really talk about here with Rocco Becht's fumble is the line struggled at times. They absolutely did. They played well. They did, but there were moments in pass protection where I thought they could have been significantly better. I think that will get cleaned up. But and to me, the way that I look at this is that's what Iowa State should have been doing. I don't know why Kansas State was just able to constantly get to Rocco. Luckily, Rocco was an escape artist and it wasn't a huge deal. But when you look at the 2 stat lines, 14 of 28, 21 for 30, 183 or 273, 2 touchdowns and 2 touchdowns. Like, which quarterback would you rather have? Probably Avery Johnson. Neither had an interception. And so when you force the pressure like that, you force the quarterback into the lesser of the 2 stat lines, right? I just want to see that more from the defense. And speaking of the defense, really solid day from Marcus Neal. Jamison Patton basically won Iowa State the game with that 4th down, just coming in like a hammer. Cooper Abel, Jontez Williams, Carson Willick, like, guys, we showed up big time. We showed up big time in this one. Defensively, I thought we were flying around. Another thing that I thought we haven't talked about, but I think is definitely a positive, it should have been in the first segment. Iowa State didn't have any penalties really in this one. Kept it very clean. That's something that you need to see. Thought that was electric. Very glad about that. Not a ton of holding. Kansas State really took themselves out of a few drives with some holding calls and whatnot. Iowa State did have that one penalty, or I guess it was a timeout situation where, gosh, who was it? It was the linebacker who went down right after the ball had been snapped. So if you missed it, if the ball is, or not snapped, set, if the ball has been placed, set down on the field, if a player goes down for injury, the team has to take a timeout. Like, they have to. And if they don't have any timeouts, it's a 5-yard penalty. This is essentially to reduce fake injuries. That's what it's for. Iowa State, I think that he was actually injured. Was it Brazina? I think it might have been Brazina. That was actually, he'd been limping around. Not ideal. And that's just kind of the part of the penalty. Like they were saying on the broadcast, if they had seen him limping around, they can go to review and be like, oh, he was actually hurt. a little bit. I don't know exactly how this is going to work. It's a new rule. Iowa State didn't end up really mattering. They had the timeouts they needed to win this game. And I'm not going to go into every single player on defense like I did on offense. I'm sorry. There was a lot of great play from the defensive line, a lot of great play from the linebackers. Secondary, really good overall, just two massive plays that really tore them up. So let's look ahead, to the future, because Iowa State with this win, this is a big one, but it's not the only game this season. So we'll talk about that coming up here right after this. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rougiette Ready. Rougiette Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rougiette's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. If traditional options haven't worked, Rougiette might be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch. Head to rougiette.com/lockedoncollege and use code lockedoncollege to get 15% off today. That's RUGIET.com/lockedoncollege and use promo code lockedoncollege for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rougiette website for full safety information. So Iowa State balled out. They killed it in this one against Kansas State. 24-21 final score. It felt like it was more than that. It should have been. I think my 2-score prediction, I think, is intact. I do. Obviously, the touchdown from Carson Hansen at the end of the game didn't count. There was a few that probably should have throughout the game for Iowa State, and Kansas State probably shouldn't have gotten as many as they did. So I'm okay with the 2-score prediction. So what does this mean? Iowa State now first in the Big 12, baby. We are on top of the mountain. Come and get us. King of the hill over here, Iowa State Cyclones. And Kansas State effectively in dead last. So that's unfortunate for them. But this was the battle of two giants, and this win for Iowa State was monumental. This game was arguably the hardest game that they will have all year, even if it isn't the toughest opponent. They went overseas. They played a very tough opponent in week 0. No tape. Now, granted, there's no tape on them, but they don't have any tape on the opposing team at all. Between year to year, I just don't see the translation, right? It's a new team every single year. So you have to get ready for the team in front of you. You don't have tape on them. You don't know who you have really all that well. And then on top of that, it's a rivalry game. Going overseas there's just so much to it. Huge pep rallies, events left and right. You're on the, obviously jet lag. I believe they played at 5:00 their time. So it was like an evening game, but it was at 11:00 in Central Time. Just a lot going on with this one. Obviously, Kansas State had to do the same things, and they didn't come away with the win. But I think that this one was the one for Iowa State that really defines the season. And that's what we've been talking about with this team is like, how are they going to bounce back from this? Because this game is huge. This is monumental. And this could really set the tone. You don't want to fly back off a loss, but there is also these next 3 games. Rocco said that these first 4 might be the hardest first 4 in Iowa State history. Now, that's pretty bold, in my opinion. I don't know. Maybe there's an argument there. I guess only time will tell. If Iowa State goes 4-0, it's a little harder to make that argument that that was the toughest 4 games. As far as Iowa State's success in this one and directly playing forward, I'm not worried. I think that there is a lot of upside to what we saw, and I think that there is the concerns that I do have. I'm not like we're totally cooked. It's not how I see it. I think that this team is actually really good, which is exciting because I've been hammering that home all offseason. And I know I get the comment homer all the time, but it's hard not to when the roster looks this good. So as far as my concern level, a lot of it does lie in the extracurriculars. I believe it was Chris Williams with Cyclone Fanatic that was like, obviously there's a lot going on right now. Post game, there was the Sweet Caroline playing. They had the trophy ceremony. I believe it was him that said it feels like a bowl game. I don't love that. I don't love that. I think that it's concerning to me. There is potential that this could feel like, all right, we did it. We finally made it through this whole offseason. We made it through this tough fall camp. Now we are officially back in football mode. We've got this really tough opponent. We beat Kansas State. We go overseas. We beat them. Now we've got a trophy ceremony for the Aer Lingus Classic. Sweet Caroline obviously on, but there's fireworks and we get, party tonight, go back. Obviously not going to really party, but celebrate tonight, party, whatever, get back on the plane, go home. We did it. Like that. No, you did one game. You've got a long ways to go. Like you can't win this one and then you're in the Big 12 championship. That's that you made it one game. So South Dakota up next, and then Iowa. My goodness, Iowa State or Arkansas State, excuse me, to round out those first four, and then Arizona and Cincinnati. And like I said, I think that those I think it's 3 games with BYU, Arizona State, TCU. Those will be really tough. But kind of in that middle ground, Arizona, Cincinnati, Colorado, BYU, I think Iowa State's going to be okay. It's really right now, how do you come back? How do you handle South Dakota? How do you handle Iowa? How do you handle Arkansas State? What happens there that is going to kind of determine this season on some level. Now, you start off the season 1-0 in the conference. That's awesome. That's really good news. We got one. Makes me think of Ghostbusters. Anyways, this was a huge win. Like, this is not some traditional week 1 win. How do you handle these 3? Because if you go and lose all 3 of these, your momentum is completely gone going into what is not a hard game against Arizona or Cincinnati. But you would rather be 4-0 than 1-3, right? Or even 2-2. Like, you obviously want to end up in a really good spot. 3-1 if you lose to Iowa. I mean, I was asked, would I rather lose to Kansas State or Iowa? I'd rather probably lose to Iowa between the two. So, because now we're 1-0 in the conference. But I don't want to lose to Iowa at all. And I don't think anybody on Iowa State's roster does either. I think everybody knows just how important this game is. Let's get into some final thoughts here. I think Iowa State killed it today. I think they really did. They played really well. The calls were, for the most part, really good. It was an aggressive game plan for the most part from Campbell. At the end of the half, decided to basically let the clock run out. There was some confusion there from analysts and whatnot. I thought that was the right play just based on how the first half had gone. Let's get to the half. I didn't love the catch of the ball inside the 5, but Aiden Flora, another guy that I didn't even get to, I don't believe I talked on, going to be very good at returning this ball. Like, he could take one all the way. If you didn't make it to this point in the episode, you're not hearing this, but send this to someone who didn't, because goodness gracious, I am calling it out right now. Flora is an unreal return man. Dare I say, on the Jet Award watch list. Like, what I saw in this game was electric. And so, I think overall takeaways, Iowa State played really well, but Kansas State did too. And so, to me, Iowa State is able to hang with the top of the Big 12. We could be looking at an Iowa State Big 12 champion this year. So genuinely. I know I've said it all off season, and I know I've just been called a guy who really believes in his former school. Like, I get it. I understand that. I'm in this team every single day. Like, nose deep on stats and news and this, that, the other thing. It's easy to get caught up in it. So I can see why people would say that, but I truly mean it. I truly think that this team is one of the best teams in the Big 12. Does the ball bounce their way is now, in my opinion, the final question, other than how do they handle coming back from this? Because this game, and we'll talk more about this on Monday. I know that this wasn't the most comprehensive breakdown. Expect that Monday. This game was very promising. Like, that's probably the word that I would use for this team right now. This team is promising. What I saw in this game was a lot of good. Maybe not in the ways we initially thought, but that doesn't matter. It's all about the end result. And I thought Iowa State could have come away with a bigger win than just 3 points in this one. Football is back. We are so back. Shout out to everyone who made it to this point in the episode. If you haven't subscribed already, do it down below. It's completely free and helps us prove that it is, in fact, a Cyclone state. Iowa State is 1-0 on the top of the Big 12 Conference.